The events going on in the world today, believe it or not, are directly connected to the subjects we have covered so far in this film.
We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity during those years. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march toward a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodetermination practiced in the past centuries.
Skull and Bones dates to 1832. It was, in fact, a reaction to a secret society, the Masons, then much more influential than they are today. Founder William Huntington Russell thought of his little conclave as sort of anti-Masons, and as a home for the wealthy and the powerful and the people who would do anything for another bonesman. George Herbert Walker Bush, whose father Prescott was a bonesman and a senator, the current President Bush, although his kid at Yale has not been tapped for Skull and Bones, even though they do admit women now. His child is not Skull and Bones, his opponent is. John Kerry, bonesman, class of '66. So we have an all-secret society presidential election. Not that either of them are talking about it.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
One a Democrat, one a Republican, miles apart on the issues, but both rooted in the same secret Yale society. Which raises the question, how exactly is the Bush bone connected to the Kerry bone?
When you look at the people who are in places, the high places of power, and it's no longer about ownership of these media entities, it's about influence and control. And if you have somebody in a secret brotherhood or taking a secret oath who's on the board of directors or is in a director's position or a position of making decisions, and they were put there by these other brethren, you know where their allegiances lie. They don't lie with the viewer at home.
The secret society networks of global elites, along with their think tank groups and secret annual meetings, such as the Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderberg Group, and Trilateral Commission, are constantly planning new ways to keep the momentum of world events pushing towards their New World Order agenda.
Who was here at the Trilateral Commission? Show hands. Now we're doing it. Okay, all right. The Trilateral Commission. It's a bit smaller than the Council on Foreign Relations. Council on Foreign Relations is about 4,000 members. Trilateral Commission, about 400, about 10 to size. It started in 1973. And with the Trilateral Commission, basically it's the leaders from North America, from Europe, and from Pacific Asia. And the ostensible reason is to get together and cooperate between the three regions.
The totality of that agenda is covered at length in the stunning new film Endgame by filmmaker and activist Alex Jones. Discussing in detail the eugenics and depopulation agenda of the global elite, Jones presents an uncompromising vision of the future. A population reduced by 80%, a worldwide totalitarian police state of constant surveillance, complete financial tracking, and even behavior reading technology. Economies are replaced with a digital currency enforced through implanted chips put into the arms of the servile population. And if you don't go along or decide to rebel, they can simply switch off your chip, erasing your bank account, your health care, and even your citizenship. It means the end of human freedom on the planet. Knowing that this heinous plan of complete domination would never openly be accepted by the public, it appears the elites realized the largest problem-reaction-solution event in history would need to be planned and executed in order to bring in public acceptance of the sweeping changes that would allow conditions for the elitist plan to be fully implemented. Immediately after the events of September 11, 2001, an outrageous conspiracy theory was promulgated upon the public consciousness. This theory claimed that 19 Saudi hijackers, several of whom turned out to be alive with their identities stolen, hijacked 4 planes in the eastern United States in the span of an hour and a half, outwitting the entire U.S. Air Force defense network, somehow avoiding missile batteries and hitting the Pentagon, and slamming into both of New York's World Trade Center towers, collapsing them both with hot jet fuel. The 4th plane was taken down by brave, patriotic passengers, many of whom were able to call loved ones on both cellular and air phones. The hijackers left proof of their guilt in every conceivable location, including parked rental cars and even a guilty terrorist passport that survived the impact and fireball of crashing into a 110-story tower. Based on this solid evidence and other never-released evidence, the obvious culprit was pinpointed as Osama bin Laden, a wealthy Saudi expatriate living in Afghanistan. The United States invaded Afghanistan in late 2001 after the Taliban offered to give up bin Laden, just wanting to see proof of his guilt first. The U.S. decided to invade instead of showing proof, and the war on terror had begun. As a result of this official story, nobody in charge of that day has been fired, arrested, or reprimanded. The so-called official investigation covered the events from the moment of plane impact to the initiation of collapse, and not much else. The 9/11 Commission report contained mostly whitewashing of responsibility, and much back-patting of the officials in charge that day. Thanks to the pretext of 9/11, the United States enjoys several unpopular wars, with a few others looming on the horizon, or being directly pursued. They've also enjoyed the largest debt and deficit in the history of the entire world, along with the creation of new, useful departments like Homeland Security, and increases of powers to agencies like FEMA, who handled the Katrina disaster so well. Finally, thanks to the pretext of 9/11, dozens of rights and civil liberties are being legislated away, while at the same time, the powers of the government to watch and control your actions are increasing at an alarming rate. Coincidentally, there exists a think tank group called the Project for the New American Century, with members including Elliot Abrams, Jeb Bush, Dick Cheney, Steve Forbes, Dan Quayle, Donald Rumsfeld, and Paul Wolfowitz. They put out a policy paper in the year 2000, before any of them were in power with George W. Bush. The paper was called Rebuilding America's Defenses, and in a section called Creating Tomorrow's Dominant Force, it's written, "Further, the process of transformation, even if it brings revolutionary change, is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event, like a new Pearl Harbor." Several months later, many of the men in this think tank were now in positions of administrative power. 11 months after gaining that power, along came a catastrophic and catalyzing event, which has brought revolutionary change. In mid-2005, a one-hour documentary called Loose Change hit the internet, and within a year had been viewed over 10 million times. Becoming a phenomenon, Loose Change spawned a second edition, a recut second edition, and very recently, a final cut released in late 2007.
Thomas Kean and Lee Hamilton are named as chairman and vice chairman of the 9/11 Commission. By December 16, 2002, 10 official members of the 9/11 Commission have been appointed onto the stage. And the man missing from this picture? Philip Zelikow, Executive Director. He would shape both the commission and its final report. The 9/11 Commission begins its investigation with a time frame of 18 months and a starting budget of $3 million.